Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the webinar today. I am Yashima Jain and I'll be moderating today's session. Now, you all have put in a lot of hard work for Solar Decathlon India, and finals just around the corner. It is now when you will make it count. And in today's webinar, our speaker will discuss how to prepare for your presentations and also make an impression on the jury. Next slide, please. Now, before we begin, I would like to acknowledge the support of the Department of Science and Technology, the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, and MacArthur Foundation. I would also like to acknowledge the support of the sponsors and affiliates of Solar Decathlon India. Thank you. Next slide. Now, today we have with us Alok Deshmukh. Hi, Alok.
Yeah, hi everybody.
So Alok is the co-founder and MD at Superhuman Race Private Limited, a startup at the intersection of technology and sustainability, which offers CSR automation, alignment with UN Sustainable Development Goals, and experiential employee engagement corporations across various industry verticals. Alok has over 20 years of experience spanning contributions to more than 125 projects in 11 countries. Alok has experience in energy and sustainable energy, implementation, consulting, and research in the corporate, government, and non-profit sectors. Before joining the Superhuman Race, Alok was at Schneider Electric India as Director of Sustainability and Influence Strategy. We welcome you once again today, Alok, and with that, I'll pass it over to you.
Thanks, Yashima, and hi everyone. First of all, congratulations for having made it to the finals. And over the course of the next 45 minutes or so, I will talk about a few things that I have learned about making effective presentations and doing it in a way that one achieves the outcomes that one sets out to achieve. So before we do that, let's start with a poll at first. So Yashima, do you want to?
Yes, I'll be launching. Yeah. So here's the poll, the first poll for today. And the question is, why are we here? And we have 5 options, and I request all of you to kindly vote. The options are, first option is to learn about TED Talks. The second is to learn how to make great presentations. Third, understand the competition requirements for the presentation. Fourth, all of the above. And fifth, none of the above. And I'll wait for another 10 seconds for everyone to vote. Right, so I'll end the poll now. And here we have the results, Alok.
Okay, so one person says none of the above, and the majority says about half of the people who are here say that it's all of the above, and 30% are saying it's to learn how to make great presentations. So the one person that said none of the above in the chat window, can you maybe tell us why you are here? Maybe I'll give it a couple of seconds if you're inclined. The reason I ask is because I suspect you might be onto something, because if you ask me, the correct answer to the question is in fact none of the above. Because in my mind, we are all here because we want to win the decathlon, right? And we want to see if there might be some value that we can gather here in terms of how do we go about winning the decathlon. At this time, you've already submitted all your reports. You've done all the hard work, and all that remains between you and winning the decathlon now is getting through the division juries with your presentations and then getting through the grand jury with your presentation. So I think let's keep that front and center in terms of the content that we go through today as well. We are here because we all want to win the decathlon. We are in it to win it. And it is with that in mind that I would ask you to look at what I might share with you over the course of the next 40 minutes or so. So the big idea here really is that have a very clear picture for any presentation, for any talk for that matter. Why am I doing this? What's the ideal outcome? So I don't think there is any doubt here in our minds in terms of why any of you are doing this. And the ideal outcome, obviously, for each one of you would be to be the grand winner, or at the very least, be the division winner. Now, the question to ask here is, who is the audience? And again, for this one, it's a very clear answer. You have 3 jurors for each presentation who are your audience members. And then there is a slightly different question that one may not usually come across is what's the hook for the protagonist? And the reason these words are in all caps is because these are particularly important words. So what's the hook for the protagonist essentially means that one needs to get the audience members identifying with the theme that we are talking about as a protagonist, and we need to give them a hook so that they pay attention to whatever we might have to say and in some way start believing our story. So that's really why we do this. And in order to do this, obviously, we have to crystallize our story first. And if you think about it, the story goes beyond all the content and the analysis that we might have. Stories connect with people in ways that data and numbers cannot connect with people. So you have to give it some thought in terms of the juries that you have, the jurors that you have. How do you crystallize your story so that you connect with the jury? As you do this, you should also think about what are the 3 key messages, at most 5 key messages that you are going to present to them. Before you even start with the presentation with PowerPoint, you should outline in a Word document or even using outline format in PowerPoint or storyboard your piece next. So you could do this in a sketchbook. But the idea is think of storyboards as what is done typically for either movies or for cartoons or for any storytelling. So you storyboard your piece next, you get the structure and the flow right, and then you detail it out and substantiate it with all the data and the numbers after all this is done. So that's really the big takeaway here, is that even before you start working on the presentation, these are some very important pieces to have in mind and to keep front and center as you work on this. So what are the elements of effective communications? So it turns out all effective communication, whether it is written communication, whether it is a presentation, whether it is a talk, all effective communication, an article, a blog, anything that you might do to communicate an idea will usually have 5 key elements. These elements are why. So why are you doing this? What is the outcome you want? What is it that you're trying to explain? What is it that you're trying to state? How should this be done? How should this be thought about? How should you go about this for the audience? When is this something that you should be looking at? Usually the answer to that is now, or as soon as you're done with this, or going forward. And then who is what you should be looking at. So let's look at another poll as we talk about these elements of effective communication. So Yashima, you want to share the poll?
Yep. So I'm launching the poll now. So the next question is, what is the single most important element? The options are why, what, how, when, and who. And I'll request everyone to please vote, and then we'll, share results and discuss briefly. Give it around 10 more seconds. All right. So in 3, 2, and 1, I am now ending the poll. Thank you, everyone. So Alok, here are our responses.
Okay, so almost 2/3 of us here think why is the single most important element, followed by equal votes for what and how, and nobody thinks when is important, and about 11% think who is important. All right, so my take on this actually is it's a little more nuanced than this, but if you were to ask me to pick a choice, I would in fact pick the who here, and I'll tell you why I would pick the who. So what I mean by it being nuanced is that it essentially needs us to tell our story in a way that articulates very clearly why must who do what, how, and when. But if you were to ask me the most important element of this, without a doubt in my mind, it has to be the who. And the who in this element is the target audience. So if it's an article you're writing, you have to put yourself in the mind of the target audience. If it's a presentation you're making, you have to put yourself in the mind of the persons that are listening. Because at the end of the day, and this is a very good point that is made by Nancy Duarte in a TED talk, and I have it in my references at the end of this presentation, where she talks about the fact that at the end of the day, what we really want to be able to do good talks or to deliver great presentations is that the idea that is in our minds, we want to facilitate it to be taken up by the audience members as if it were their idea, or at least as if they were to believe in it along with you and their willingness to work with it along with you. So to me, the who is the central piece of this story that you are trying to tell here. Of course, it has to be underlying. You start with the why. You have the why very clearly in your mind. You may or may not state it explicitly, but it needs to be very clearly done in a manner that you take the target audience along with you so that they identify with you on the why, what, how, and when. So that's my take on that. And if you see all great storytellers, all great leaders, whether they belong to business or politics, they will do a very good job of getting the audience behind their ideas. And that's really the key to delivering a great presentation or a great speech or writing a great article, is to have the audience feel like they are the protagonist of your movie, of your plot, of your story, and then to set up the context and then to kind of take them forward. So one more poll, if we all agree, even though this was not the majority opinion, that the who is the most important, let's take another poll about who is the who, right? So Yashima, if you want to share the poll.
Yes. All right. One last poll for today. So the question is, who are we doing this for? And the options are you yourself, the planet or the society, then DST, MNRE, or the MacArthur Foundation, who are our sponsors, industry partner, or your incubator, and then all of the above or none of the above. And I'll request everyone to vote in here. All right. We have sufficient votes, I think. So I'll end the voting now, and I'll look here our results.
All right, all of the above, followed by Planet or Society, followed by me. So this, unfortunately to me, tells me that you are not listening to the first part of what we were saying. So while this is great, I think that the reason we are doing this particular presentation, and the most important who that we've left out of this presentation, is the jury, right? At the end of the day, it does not matter what we do and how DST or MNRE or MacArthur Foundation or the industry partner or the incubators think about this. What matters is what the jury thinks about what you have done and what you're going to present. It does not matter what you think about it. And sure, we will do good by the planet and society. And again, that is the why that we are involved in this effort. That is why we are participating in the solar decathlon. But at the end of the day, it's not going to count for much if we don't have the jury on board and we don't have the jury believing in our solution and our idea. So now, as it relates to the jury, keep in mind, we have two different juries. The first is a division jury, where you will be competing with 6 other teams, if I'm not mistaken, Yashima? Or 5 other teams, total of 6 teams.
Yes, total of 6 teams.
Right.
Yeah.
So the division jury is going to look at a lot of technical aspects, a lot of economic and feasibility and practicality aspects. They're going to look at all the contests that are part of the competition. They're looking at whether or not you meet the requirements. They're looking at whether you exceed all the requirements. They're pretty clued into all the details of your reports because they have seen the reports. They would have provided you with questions or feedback or suggestions in advance of the presentation, and you will have time to address those. So that's what the division jury will be looking at. Now, the grand jury is a whole different ball game. The grand jury is almost like a layperson jury. It's a much broader jury. They might be looking at it in terms of, is this something I might invest in? And again, also keep in mind the division jury, you have about 25 minutes to present, and the grand jury, you have only 10 minutes to present. And it makes sense because the division jury, you will be looking at addressing gaps that you may not have been able to address in your report. You may be looking at addressing questions that they might have for you, and so on and so forth. But the grand jury, at the end of the day, you're going to have to tell them a story that transcends the technicality, the economic feasibility, that touches upon it, but still goes beyond that. In some ways, the grand jury is going to be looking for something that they're going to get jazzed by at the end of the day. They want to see something that they might invest in, that they can get behind, that they can talk about. That's what they're going to look at. And so it is with this in mind that you are going to have to think about, how do I get the jury to get behind my idea? And in some ways, you know, again, in this talk by Nancy Duarte, I think she talks about the fact that your role as a presenter is almost as a facilitator. She makes the reference about Skywalker and Yoda in Star Wars, where she states that it is actually Yoda that you are supposed to emulate as you do the presentation, because you want the audience to be the, so to speak, warrior, or, you know, to be the person that's kind of taking this forward. And that's really what you need to get into in terms of, you know, how do you get the audience to identify with your story, with your questions, with your elements of why this is the best solution, and then go forward. So remember this all the time. What's in it for me, right? At the end of the day, this is what it all comes down to. Why should anybody pay any attention to you for any amount of time? Whether or not you're able to hold their attention is going to be essentially coming down to whether or not you're able to do a good job of articulating this. So an example of how I've done this.
Yeah. Just going back to the earlier couple of slides that you were talking about. So when we say that you want to make a protagonist out of the jury, and you give the example of, say, Luke Skywalker, who is the hero of the movie, who would be the protagonist, and Yoda is the facilitator who sort of acts like the guru or somebody who's, you know, making that person get somewhere. So we are in this context, we're talking about jury. So jury actually is not going to go and do any war or actually build the building or invest in the building, right? So can you be a little bit more sort of maybe metaphorical or example wise say that what do we mean when we say that we want to make the jury feel like they're the protagonist?
Right. So the way I would see it is that, you know, the jury has been working, the jurors have been working in this field for years now, and they know a few things that work, they know a few things that don't work. They're also tasked with a very real task here of determining the winner beyond a doubt for this competition, for this division. And I think in my mind, what needs to come out very clearly is that here are some of the things that we have found that you may also have identified in your work so far, that we have gone about finding a solution to, and here's how. And here are the requirements for the competition, the 10 contests and all the other criteria. And if you look at what we are showing you, there is no doubt whatsoever that we've really made this very simple for you. So to me, in this case, for the division jury, that's what it's going to be in terms of how do we get them to be the protagonist. Now, whether you message it as explicitly as this, or whether you do it, you know, in a way that kind of alludes to this, is up to you. But I think the underlying message really needs to be that ours is the best solution. It meets all the requirements. It goes beyond by addressing practical feasibility related concerns that even you might identify with. And here's what we've done to that end.
So not to belabor this too much, but the teams have worked on a project that has a certain context, and they are trying to understand what the target market is. They might have come across something that makes the project be important for that target audience. Let's say if an affordable project, or if it's a school and the kids go into the school and the problems they're facing or the lack of certain things, being able to make the jury feel like by choosing this team as the winner, they will help solve the problem for the kids in the school. Would that be a way of saying you are making the jury a protagonist?
Absolutely.
So that's about making the story connection, right?
Yes, absolutely. That is exactly right. That, you know, that having spent the last few months on this problem or this particular division and developing the solution, we found a few things that don't work. And that's kind of and you know, I'll talk about it a little bit as we go ahead, but that's really the point that, you know, here are some of the things that don't quite work that we found out, and this is how we've gone about addressing them. The other way to do it also would be to kind of, you know, if the jury has given you comments or suggestions or questions in their review, then that would also give you very good clues in terms of what are they looking for, and to, you know, be very effective at addressing those gaps or queries or concerns or comments would be also another way to do it. Okay, so then just moving on. So yeah, so thanks Prasad, because that is very important in terms of, you know, like how do you get a protagonist to identify with that sense of being a protagonist? That is in fact the single most important piece of it, and that usually goes to the statement of a problem that goes to the core of the issue that is being discussed in terms of why does this not work or why does this not happen. So I'll just go, I will be talking about it in the what part of it, how you can connect to that. In the next few slides, so this is not meant for me to present these slides. What I'm trying to do here is just talk about how, for another talk that I do on metrics that matter, the audience members are shown some of these questions in terms of, and you've seen some of these questions yourself. And actually, Prasad, going back to your previous example also, what I did with this talk is that I got our audience to be the protagonists early on with the first poll, right? Is that why are we here? And getting right to the meat of the matter in terms of, well, we are here because we want to win the decathlon. So I think that, of course, with a jury like this, it's going to need to be a little more, I think we're going to have to state some loftier problems that we are solving, and also make a very clear connection to the fact that, look, we are really making your job very easy for you in terms of picking a winner, right? And that winner is us. So I think that's really what is going to have to be done by the winning team, in my mind. So so the next few slides are essentially how I lay out the metrics that matter for the who, in terms of, and where I kind of, so this is typically in the case of a business decision maker or a project decision maker that needs to give the go ahead for a particular sustainability strategy or for a particular way of doing a sustainability project. And these are some of the questions that I kind of encourage the participants to ask, so that they can connect the why with the who. And how do you understand this? So you try to find what motivates them. You persuade someone by finding what motivates them. So think about, like, your jury members. You have 3 jury members for each division and 3 jury members for the grand jury, right? So that's not a lot of people to think about. There's not a lot of generalizations to look at. You can do a little bit of research about them and figure out what makes them tick. What are they most passionate about? Why are they jurors for this division? What is their body of work? Are there things that we have done in our solution, that in our project, that would instantly get them listening if we were to say that, look, there's something wrong with this whole field as it relates to doing super efficient or net zero energy buildings for this use, and this is what we found, and here's why we think that we've been able to solve it, or here's how we have solved it, right? So get behind what makes them tick. In this case, this was, what is the key performance indicator, what is the key responsibility area of the juror, of the audience. And at the end of the day, again, it comes down to the WIIFM acronym, right? Why should they pay undivided attention to me for the next 5 to 10 minutes? And in the real world, it is actually only about 5 or 10 minutes. I'll be lucky if I get a business decision maker to give me 5 minutes of undivided attention. In some ways, 25 minutes and 10 minutes is in fact a luxury. And one sees, if one is not able to capture the attention and keep it, it is increasingly difficult to keep them engaged as one goes ahead. So what are the why questions? So the why questions that one needs to address is, why does this matter? Right? I mean, so clearly this matters because we know about the role of buildings and we know about the emissions contribution and all of those things. But what have you found unique to your project and to your solution that makes what you are about to present the most important thing that they should be paying attention to? Why is it important for them to understand this as well? And maybe, I mean, if you can be so audacious to say it, is to give them some insights into how they might go about this. That may well be another way to go. why is this project the best thing since sliced bread or LEDs for energy efficiency? Have the courage to ask yourself this question and also to state it, put a stake in the ground up front in the presentation and state it, and then go along making it so in a way. Why should you listen to us for the next 25 or 10 minutes? And why should you pick us? Why are we the, how do you say, the undisputed winners of this competition? That is what you need to very clearly identify at different levels for the division jury and at different levels for the grand jury. So what you will get from looking at the profiles and also from looking at the competition guidelines is what are some of those levers that you're going to have to pull for each of these jurors. Look at the juror profiles as well as at the competition guidelines and take your cues from the questions that they're asking you as well. And then set about answering those questions with this why underlying your entire presentation. So in some ways, the answers to this why would be your common thread along the entire presentation that you make. So for business decision makers, for example, this is a slide that I have used because I found that in this field, we used to often talk about kilowatt hours per square meter per year. But it would mean nothing to most people, not even to architects or engineers often, because we cannot relate to kilowatt hours. We can rarely, if ever, relate to meter square. And a year is a very long time frame. So then our team started saying, okay, how about the difference between 14 rupees per square foot or 3 rupees 25 paise per square foot? And since it's an office building and their metrics usually are how many employees are there in the office space, we broke it down to the per employee per month rupee cost. And then we said, even if you say that this is not going to be something that we can achieve because that's best in class, and best in class, I'm sure comes at a very heavy cost. We said, okay, fine, let's take only about a quarter of the opportunity between best in class and average. And even that is worth 2.5 rupees per square foot per month of operating cost savings, or 250 rupees per employee per month. And if there were a particular building footprint that we were addressing, then we would in fact translate the bottom box to that footprint. So if it were 10,000 square foot, we would say, what is the monthly energy cost reduction for 10,000 square foot? If it's 50,000, then we state it that way. So make it very real in terms of your 50,000 square foot building stands to save 1.25 lakh rupees in monthly costs for energy by pursuing only a quarter of the opportunity that is available between best in class and business as usual. And so we ended up doing this for hospitals as well. And we ended up doing this for hotels as well. So these are again just examples to kind of get your creative juices flowing, to get you to identify what are some of the metrics that matter to the people that are in front of you, to the people that you are presenting to. In this case, the metrics would be very clear in terms of the criteria for the competition, the 10 contests, and anything that they might have asked. The other way of doing this also is I often resort to the FOMO factor, right? Which is, okay, so maybe you do this, maybe you don't, but what's the cost of not doing this, right? How easy is it to do this? And what do you stand to lose if you don't do this? So that's also a very important element of the why, is that, it's really easy to do this. It's something that we found that just requires us to look at this in a different way. And maybe, what happens if you don't do this? What are you going to lose? What is the risk? Can you afford the risk? Those are some of the questions that would work quite well if you're able to, get some of those key points to talk about. So let's talk about the what a little bit. Now, at its simplest, the what is about, again, like you've connected the who to the why, and you've got their attention, and now you need to talk to them about what is it that you have devised and why is this the best solution, how does it work, and when does this come into play. So at its most basic, all storytelling, all communication is about introduction, body, and conclusion, right? This is like when we wrote school essays, we've learned this. Another way of looking at it in a more colloquial way is, tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them, and then tell them what you just told them, right? So it's in some ways as simple as this. Now you can get more layered about this. You can weave in storytelling into this. So what you have on the screen here is this beyond bullet point storyboard template. So this is actually a Word document, but this forms the first step for the presentation that you would do. And this is actually, so even to the question that Prasad was asking is that, so there's a title and you might have a catchy byline. And then the first act, the intro, is all about the compelling setup. And you think of all movies that you've liked, you think of all TV series that you've liked, you will see that there is a hook to begin with. And very early on, you begin identifying with the protagonist. Now, whether that protagonist is the hero or whether it is someone that is supporting the hero, every one of us, when we see TV series, when we see movies that we like, we identify with somebody that we get behind. These are all very strong character sketches. Then once you've done that, you talk about, okay, what's the relevance of this issue? What is the challenge? Why does this not work? And why do we want this to work, really? What is the desire? The world is going to be sustainable and our future generations are going to be secured and so on and so forth. And here we have a way to get there, right? So that's kind of the first act in very brief. So if this were like a 20-minute presentation, the first act would be 5 minutes. And then the anchors, the second act, this is where you get into the details of like, here are 3 things that we did to identify the actions that it will take to go through the map that we have figured out, right? And then the conclusion, which would be that as a result of doing this, look at how green the world is everywhere and look at how happy all the babies are everywhere and all of that, right? And I mean, this is what all storytelling effectively is about, is that there is a compelling setup, there is a hook, there is a very clear relevance that is articulated, there is an imbalance. What is the challenge? Why is this wrong? What do we need to fix here? And that desire to fix things is central to talking about the imbalance. And then here's a map, and here are 3 things, 5 things that you can do. And once you do this, look at how great everything is. That's the climax, right? So that's one way of doing the why. The more you can get this kind of evocative storytelling into the presentation, and it need not be all on the slides, it can be in your verbal script, but the more you can do this, the more you are going to be in some ways memorable, and the better your chances of winning this, honestly. So as we talk about why, I also want to talk about a few examples that I have found really inspirational, and I have found instructional in terms of how some of the greatest communicators do this. 2 very different examples. So I don't know how many of you have seen any of Steve Jobs' product launch speeches. There's a very famous one when he launched the iPhone, and even when he launched the iPad, and how he revolutionized and completely changed and disrupted several industries is known to everyone. But when he was launching the MacBook Air, he got the MacBook Air, it was on a table sitting in that manila envelope that is in his hands, right? And then he started about talking about how it was thinner than even at its thickest, it was thinner than the thinnest competitor's device that was out there. And then he said that, it's so thin that it can fit into this envelope that we see in all our offices. And then he picks up the envelope from the table and he removes it, and then he holds it in one hand like that, right? To just emphasize the thinness. And there are so many shots of him removing the MacBook Air from the manila envelope, as well as holding it on the fingers of one hand in different angles that emphasize the thinness. So that's another element of the what, is that how can you wow your audience with the what, right? How do you compare and contrast? Now, the other series of images that are there on this slide. So this is one of the greatest proponents of energy efficiency, making economic sense and having a compelling business case. These are 3 slides from Amory Lovin's 3 presentations. The first one was in 2007 that he did at Stanford. And that's a slide that over the years, he also recognized, Rocky Mountain Institute also recognized that that is not the way to do slides, right? So slides are not meant to be a copy paste of your reports and put into bullet points on the slide. That is not the way to do slides. Then in 2012, he did a presentation for TED in which you see a lot of the imagery, a lot of the slides were essentially, while there is information there on efficiency and on weight on the sides, and he's talking about the specific elements that are highlighted there in the arc above with the symbols above the car, a lot of the information that he gave was part of his script and not on the slides. And then cut to 2020, and in fact, this is where he's talking about the new Indian commercial buildings in a talk that he gave at Stanford last year in November. It was a virtual talk. So he has now gone to a headline statement, a couple of images, and then a few key facts and figures, and including the timeline and what were some of the gains and so on and so forth, right? So to me, this is also extremely useful to see that how even some of the best proponents of energy efficiency have kind of fine-tuned, or in fact not even fine-tuned, they've actually changed the way they've made these presentations. So that's something that I wanted to share with you all as well, in terms of how do you do what you do with the slides that you put together or with the presentation that you make. It need not just be slides. You could, if you wanted to, bring a prop to the presentation and talk about that. So just something to keep in mind. Now all stories, again, now I want to borrow from a different kind of a industry, which is the news industry, right? You have a headline, then there is a big story that goes along with the headline. There are 3 to 5 key messages with all memorable stories with just enough drill down. And then there is the climax or the conclusion. So finally, this is what it is all about, is that how do you enable your audience to be able to remember your headline, your big story, your 3 key messages, and your conclusion. So picture this in a way where the jury members are going about the judging that you're presenting. And after all the teams have done this, what you want is, you want the jury members to say, hey, what did team ABC do? And then the other jury member should be like, oh, these were the people that did this, this, and this, remember? And they presented it with this, this, and this, if you remember. And there should be instant recall that, oh yes, that was the team, right. And then, they'll go about marking it, right? That's the ideal outcome that you want, is that after you've gone through all the presentations, they still remember you for your key messages, for your headline, for your story, for your conclusion. That's the key message that you want, or the key outcome that you want. Now, the other very important piece of storytelling is, and again, this is part of Nancy Duart's talk as well, is you need to constantly go back and forth between, and this again goes back to the first element of the setting up the act, is the what is and why is this wrong, right? So Steve Jobs in that MacBook Air speech started with why the thin and light notebook computers of the era were bad, because one, they were not thin enough. Two, they had poor battery life. Three, they had very small screens. Four, they had small keyboards. And five, they had very small processors, right? And then he talked about how we reject all of these things, and here's what we are doing for each of these things. So he talked about what is and why does it suck. Then he talked about what could be and what have we done. Then again he talked about what is and why, what could be done. And then, so essentially this is something that you need to keep doing, that what is the status quo, why does it not work, and how does our solution help solve it. All great speeches. So again, falling back on the Nancy Duart speech, all great speeches, all great presentations, all great talks have this formula that is consistent in them. They keep going back and forth between what is, what could be, what is, what could be. And they do this in a way that the audience identifies with at a very personal level. So this is what you need to also identify for your presentation, for your talk. What is, why does it suck, and what can be the ideal solution, and how have we resolved it? And then when you talk about the solution, keep it simple. Here is the solution. That's it, right? So keep it as simple as you can. And 1, 2, 3. The best storytelling usually happens in the rule of 3. That is what people remember usually. Now I want to talk about a concept that again not a lot of people talk about, but this is something that is usually very important in terms of the money shot. So the money shot is essentially the shot in a movie, or that graphic or that visual in a presentation or in an article, that the most amount of time, the most amount of effort, the most amount of analysis, and the most amount of storytelling has gone into. That's where the most resources have gone into, and that is really the shot that not only has cost the most money, but that is also what is going to bring the money in, so to speak. So that's the money shot. That is what is going to sell your project, your solution, your proposal. And so again, just to show an example of what a money shot looked like for a project that I worked on. So this is the chart that sold the retrofit of the Empire State Building to two constituents, actually, the audience at the time. They were the ownership of the Empire State Building. These were people that owned 65 lakh square feet of real estate in New York City, of which the Empire State Building constituted 27 lakh square feet of real estate, commercial real estate. They were already spending 93 million US dollars. So in rupee terms, at that time, the conversion rate was 50. So I think it was like around 460 crores were being spent. And we told them, hold on a bit. We are going to tell you to spend 65 crores more. But as you spend 65 crores more, you are going to get 38% savings. And there are other benefits that will also accrue to you, which we've compiled all together in this very simple chart, because you told us you want us to look at the net present value. That is the metric that you use for your business investments. So all the things that we are proposing that you do are along the vertical axis, where we've captured the net present value of these four bundles, which is NPV max, NPV mid, NPV neutral, and max CO2. And then, because the slope dips at a certain point, these are not the best returns for your investment, and the best solution that balances CO2 savings and your financial returns is this NPV mid solution. And then we went about talking to them about what that solution entailed, what measures, what projects needed to happen. But this was the chart that sold the energy efficiency retrofit both to the ownership of the Empire State Building, as well as to the Clinton Climate Initiative, which was the platform that had brought all of these private sector players together. So that's the money shot. So it needs to be information rich. At the same time, it needs to clearly say what you need to say. You need to be willing to and comfortable dwelling on it for enough time. So if you have a 45-minute or a 25-minute presentation, think of this as the slide where you will dwell on it for at least 2 minutes, if not more. And maybe even think of what are the pauses you will take as you deliver this. And what are the key messages that you need to land when you have this money shot in front of the audience. So think about this as well as you go about creating your presentation. How do you do this? So again, keep in mind that even as you do the how, you should be thinking about the jury. You should be thinking about helping them think through the process that you have gone through, helping them think about how they need to see this. That while you may have been thinking about this in a particular way, here's another way to look at it. And here's how we went about it, could be a part of it. But essentially, the focus should be on facilitation. The focus should be on getting them to see what you see and how you did what you did and why they should agree with how you did what you did. To the extent that at the end, they should say that, no, these guys identified the problem, they solved it, they had a very good thought process, even if they may not have come to the right solution set, or they may have been off in terms of the numbers, indicative, directionally correct. We think this is the best team. So again, you're getting in the minds of the audience, and the audience needs to believe in your story. The audience needs to believe in how you went about this. That's the important thing for you to do. So there is a tagline for a brand called Home Depot in the US that goes, "You can do it, we can help." So in some ways, this is what we want to do with the how, is that you can do it, we can help, and here's how. So again, a couple of examples in terms of how we've done this. So when I talk to business decision makers, I usually talk about helping them understand, starting with the big umbrella kind of definition of sustainability. But then I say that, there's actually 3 aspects to sustainability, and there's, a real sustainable solution is where all 3 aspects are resolved. And if we've not yet resolved all 3 aspects, it just means that we still have some way to go in terms of working on the solution set. We still have some work to do. And there are some ways in which we need to think about this. It has been so far that the economy was seen as supporting society, which was seen as supporting the planet. But the reality today is that, in fact, the economy is a subset and is constrained by the limits of the society, and the society is constrained by the limits of the planet. So these are just examples that I have used in the past about getting my audience to think about the how this needs to be looked at in order for the compelling business case that I'm talking about to make sense. And as I do this, I will also talk about the fact that so far all these costs have been externalized, but now all these costs are going to be core to business. And there's a very important risk here to be taken into account. And in some cases, we would also talk about what does that risk mean in terms of profitability? What does that risk mean in terms of business continuity? And so on and so forth. So make it very real for them in terms of how do we get them to believe in what we are saying. And finally, I want to talk briefly about the when. So when usually also comes with a call to action when we talk about it, is that, so at the end of the day, what we want from any narration on the when, and this could be done in different ways, again, with regards to numbers that make sense to them, but it needs to get to a call to action that says, now is where you need to decide that this is the way to go and this is the only way to go, or right after you leave this room. And not just that, as you go through your business in the future. So again, in this case, it's going to be that, you need to decide right now that we are the best, and when you're scoring us after. And oh, by the way, we've also given you a few things that are insights that we think you will find useful in your work as you go along, because this is a great set of minds that has come together with the right mentors and with the right industry partners. And here are some things that we have found out that you may never have thought of. How about that, right? So that's kind of the when. Again, some examples of how we have articulated the when to good effect is, we've actually done this by, again, kind of articulating the benefits of doing good and the disproportionate rewards that come from companies that have a purpose culture, as opposed to the companies that don't. And then why would you not do this starting now, right? That's the kind of question that we ask when we ask this. And in other ways, it could be like, the market for this is so big, it's going to grow so many times. There's 4x profitability per employee that could be had. So you really want to start doing this now, or as soon as you go into your next board meeting, you want to be talking about this, or that kind of messaging. So let's quickly look at an example for this. I'm not going to take a lot of time, but I just want to talk about how did we deal with some of the, the why. So this is the Empire State Building presentation that we had used. I'm going to keep it in slide sorter mode, which is very close to the storyboard format. So we started by asking the question, what did we set out to do? We set out to answer the question, is there a business case for whole building energy efficiency retrofits? And as we were setting out to answer the question, we went through a process, which is on slides 7 and 8 here. And the process involved a lot of different tools and rating systems and indicators. And then this is what we arrived at with this particular case. And what does that entail? That entails all of these specific measures. There is an approach to this, which is reduce loads and using efficiency and then using controls. What do these 8 measures look like? And so again, I also want to say here that, even for this project, there were 65 odd opportunities that we had looked at. And we boiled it down to a bundle that included 8 opportunities. And now if you want details, here are the financial details of each of the opportunities or the measures, what you were going to spend, what we are asking you to spend, what the return on investment is, who carries it out, what are some of the collateral benefits that come out of it. And so to answer the question that we started out asking in the first place, why we did all of this, yes, there is a business case, but conditions apply. And what are those conditions? Here are some of the lessons learned that we have found that are of importance even to your other buildings in your portfolio, as well as to the greater energy efficiency building retrofit program of the Empire State Building. So that's one example of the storytelling in action. So I just want to kind of close by talking about the why am I doing this? What's the ideal outcome? Think about who is the audience. How do you identify a hook for the protagonist? And each one of you can come up with a different hook that could be rooted in your specific solution, in your unique problem that you have identified that you believe nobody else has been able to solve, and maybe nobody has even unearthed in the division so far. Crystallize your story first before even getting to the PowerPoint. Debate this vigorously amongst each other, bounce it off of your mentors, your industry partners, distill the 3 key messages next, outline or storyboard after that, bullet points and sub-bullet points, very, very crisp. These are the messages that we want to leave behind, and detail out the presentation after all this is done. It is an iterative workflow. You need to start with the story, develop the key messages, talk about the storyboard or the flow, put in the details, review it, get somebody to look at it, get somebody to poke holes in your whole story and your messages and your flow and your details, revise, again do the same. And then, once you do this at least 3 or 4 times, you will have a presentation that you will be very confident about. So golden rules start with why, audience before story, story before messages, messages before details. That's the outline of the storyboard. Buy-in before effort. So what I mean by this is that, make sure all of you as team members are on board. Make sure your industry partners see value in this. Bounce it off of maybe some family members, especially as it relates to the grand jury presentation. Bounce it off of some business people that you might know. Is that, hey, I need to sell energy efficiency, or I need to sell my competition entry to somebody that has nothing to do with this field. This is the story I'm thinking of telling. What do you think? Get their inputs and then put in the effort. Review before publication. You don't want any mistakes, either technical, numerical, or grammatical, because that will distract from your message. Practice your presentation in the manner of a full-blown dry run at least 5 times, and no more than 1 slide per minute. So if you have 25 minutes, you should not have more than 25 slides. This is really a golden rule that you cannot exceed. And some food for thought: how much text should you have? What font size? So if you see yourself going beyond 5 points on a slide, 5 main points that you're making on a slide, ask yourself, is there really a good reason to do this? Font size: if you see yourself going below 16 font size on your slide, ask yourself, what am I doing wrong? You don't have to put all the information that is in your reports in the slides. Do the charts convey the message adequately? Are they simple to understand? Are they the right kinds of charts? How do we connect emotionally with the jurors? What is it that we can do to get them to think like us and to agree with us that our way of doing it is indeed the only way of doing it? Keep in mind, it's an online presentation, so animations or movies may not work. Practice transitions between team members. This is going to take, if you don't get this right, it will take away from your time real estate that you have. You have only 25 minutes and you are competing with 5 other teams to make the most impactful presentation. So even a second or 2 lost to transitions is to your detriment. It could have been a second or 2 that you could have used to better effect to land the messages that you need to land. So keep this in mind. It should not be a readout of your reports. So what does a readout of your reports look like? It would look like me looking. This is not a readout of your reports. This is not a teleprompter. Who presents and why? So what you really need to do is look across your team members and decide who are the best people to present because of their maybe command on the concepts, because of their knowledge of the solution, because of their knowledge of a particular discipline that you want to highlight, because of their ability to connect with the jurors, or because they are just good at speaking. Because they have the gift of the gab. And I think it'll need to be a balance. I think you need to have no more than 4 members can be speakers in your presentation. So it needs to be a balance of the right attributes of substance and of polish and finesse between your team members. You all need to do a really good job articulating why your solution is superlative compared to all others. In terms of timeline, I would suggest that you spend at least 2 days from here on out to get the story right. Spend at least a week, if not more, on the slides, getting the messaging right, getting the visuals right, making sure you have evocative images that help the jurors identify with what you're saying, and then leave a good 5 days for practice. I'm telling you, you will need at least 5 full-blown dry run type practice sessions in order to be able to feel good about yourself when you're done with this. And dry runs for the headline and the story and the messages as well. Keep those in mind too. Yashima, do you want to talk about some of your experiences with presenting as a participant for the Solar Decathlon year?
Sure. Thanks, Alok. So, I think you've covered most of it, but I would, because I have practiced it, I would like to, reiterate a few things. So the first thing that we did was storyboarding. So before we actually began making the slides, we did storyboard and make a narrative of, how we want to tell our story to the jurors so that it is compelling enough and, we are able to emotionally also connect with our jury members. And we also, looked at a brief profile of who will be reviewing and judging our presentation and our work. So that's always helpful. So we had one architect, one mechanical engineer, so we modified and customized our presentation according to that. And also, I mean, as a recommendation to our participants, focus on the 10 contests for your divisional jury, because that is what the jury will be judging you on. The questions also will be related to those 10 contests, because those are mandatory things that have to be done to in the competition. Then another thing, during presentation, I would suggest that you practice multiple times. 3 times is the minimum that you should practice. Have a detailed script, but even if it is scripted, it should not look like you are reading it out. It should come out more naturally. So because the event is going to be virtual, you can paste your script on the screen and you can speak, but it becomes very evident if you are reading it out, because your eyes are moving and there is no gesture or change of pace. So keep that in mind, because you are trying to make a connect with your juror, and expression becomes very important in that case. And as Alok said, divide your presentation among the speakers. So you have 4 speakers, and if you have 25 slides, so divide, be strategic about how you divide your slides. It's not that one slide someone is speaking, then the second someone, and third is someone, like that. Mix sections, and that's the way to go, because it is virtual, and you will have only 25 minutes. And one thing that I am sure of is that we will not go to the 26th minute during your presentation. So also be aware of how your slides are looking. You do not want to overload your slides with a lot of information. Be minimalistic, but try to convey the USP of that particular slide. So if there's a graphic, for example, a graph, and there is one particular thing that you want to highlight, make sure that that thing is highlighted visually as well, so that the person who's viewing the presentation is able to relate to it. And that is very much dependent on how you set your narrative, which is the very first step in making your presentation. So all of this is interlinked, and if you follow a streamlined process, it will help you in delivering a much better presentation. And I'm sure many of you would be doing this for the very first time, because your students, public speaking students tend to become a little nervous. So and when I did it, I was nervous too. And Prasad was our faculty lead, and he made us practice multiple times, and that's how we became very confident by the time we got to the final presentation, because we had practiced it so many times. And in our case, because it was a physical thing, we looked at positions and gestures and all those kind of things. So it's very important to practice, and 3 times, again, I would like to emphasize, is the minimum that you should practice your entire script. And lastly, I would request all of you that, of course, I'm sure your faculty leads would look at your presentations before you submit, but do get a fresh pair of eyes over to look at your presentation, so that they are the ones who will be able to relate and tell you what points you're missing on, and it will be very helpful for you. So someone who's not very aware of your project, who has a slight idea what you're doing, is someone you can go for your divisional jury. And as Alok said, for your grand jury, you can have your family members if they're not from the field, or some businessman or businesswoman, those kind of people, because the criteria for the grand jury and divisional jury are very different. So look out for those kind of people to get your presentation reviewed. Yeah, I think the rest, Alok, you've covered most of it. And yeah.
Great. Thanks, Yashima. So I see we do have some questions, but before we get to the questions, I want to just cover one of the questions that I have in fact answered here. So there is a question that says, what are your tips on preparing for the Q&A? So the tip for preparing for the Q&A is really PREP. And I don't mean that in the manner of that you need to prepare for it. But what I mean by that is it's an acronym. It means that you need to state the point. You need to state a reason why you think that point makes sense. You need to explain it briefly, and then you need to state the point again. Now, this is great. And in an ideal world, you would be able to get it very quickly in terms of what's the point, what's the reason, what's the explanation, and what's the point again. Sometimes some questions may not be the easiest of questions. It may be a bit of a googly, right? And in that case, what you need to do, and in fact, this is something I would suggest you do for any and all questions anyways, is that you pause and you reflect. Do not be unnerved by the aspect or by the notion of taking 5 seconds to just think about the question. Just nod along as you heard the question. Maybe make a note of it as you're talking about it. Acknowledge that you heard the question. And even better, rephrase the question that you have heard. Ask the juror, what I heard you say is this, and what I think you're asking is this. Is that right? So, what that also does is that gives you a little bit of time to gather your thoughts. It gives you a little bit of time to kind of, think about what might be the right point. It's, you could call it stalling, but it really is. And it also gives the juror a very clear message that you are listening. You're really trying to understand what is it that they're trying to ask, and then trying to answer that, right? So that's the thing about answering questions. I have some resources here. These will be shared with you. We can look at some of the other questions. I am going to take the question about how can we cover all the information we want to convey about a project in such a short time. Great question. All great presentations need to work with the really physical constraint that is time. You may have been working on this for months, but at the end of the day, you only have as much time as you have. In a lot of cases, you are lucky if you have 25 minutes or even 10 minutes. I have been part of startup pitches as a juror where they had all of 3 minutes to present their entire business, their innovation, their business model, and why they should be picked for all of the investments or for the startup award challenge or startup challenge award or whatever it is. And the thing is that at the end of the day, you just need to be ruthless about what you will and what you will not talk about. There is just no other way to it. You have 25 minutes. You need to identify what are the key messages that are going to make sense to the jurors, and you need to cut away everything else. That's it. You just have to be ruthless about what you will include and what you will not include. And that is the only way to do it. Don't think that you're going to be able to overload your presentation with a lot of information. Don't think, and that is where again the story, the headline, the story, the key messages comes into play. Debate it vigorously amongst each other. Sound it off to people who are not involved with your project. Ask them what they think about it. That will help you get the answers about what's really important and what is not. But this is a very important question, and this is what it all comes down to. Whether or not you've chosen the right information to cover so that you can deliver it in the way that has the effect that you need it to have. So that is what I would say. Should we talk more about the impact of our solutions? Again, I would say that, I mean, this is probably one for the competition secretariat also. So Yashima, you can talk about this. I mean, I would say that, look, at least for the division jury, your detailed reports have been seen by them. And the presentation is a whole different animal. The presentation serves a different purpose. It may serve to supplement or to complement what you've already said. But I think on that one and the other three, over to you, Yashima, or to Prasad.
Yeah, thanks, Alok. Prasad, we have one question. Are we getting any feedback on the final reports?
You're asking me how to answer the question?
Yes.
Yes, we will have feedback from the jury on your reports, obviously, but we're going to try and get some of that feedback to you before your presentation, maybe 3-4 days before, so that you have some time to hear what the jury has thought of your reports, so that when you go into the presentation, you know what your jury is thinking about your work. Maybe they think some parts are covered well, maybe they think some parts are not covered well. And so it's not like this is going to help you to, make additional work. It's not like you're going to create another report or something. Your slides will already be submitted, so you can't even change your slides. But what you might be able to do is tweak some of the narrative of what you're saying. And if you think that your jury's already bought into a lot of the things that you're saying from the comments, then maybe you can reduce some of that and only highlight the achievements. If they seem to have a problem with some of those things that you're saying, and if you think you have a better justification, perhaps you might be able to address that concern in your presentation. Some of these things might also come as Q&A from the jury. So these comments might help you to prepare more solidly towards the Q&A session at the end.
Right.
And if I might just jump in here, right? I mean, Prasad, you mentioned that you would have already submitted the presentation. And that's exactly the point, is that think of the presentation as a visual cue, right? It's a prop. It's not what you are delivering. It's a part of what you're delivering, but what you're delivering is what you say, is how you connect. Your presentation is not going to be able to connect. It can help connect, but at the end of the day, you have to kind of modulate your script to the situation. Maybe you've seen the other team members or the other competitors talk about something that you saw resonate a lot with the jury, and or maybe you saw something that you picked up something that the jury is looking for that nobody else is talking about. So you are going to have to do some of this as you go along. So think of that your script and your delivery and your performance is different from your presentation, from your PowerPoint slides. So just keep that in mind.
So I want to add to this also that the reason practice is important is that it allows you to move away from your slides. It allows you to distance yourself from the thing that you're trying to say and focus on how you're going to say it. It's like driving a car. If you were already always focused on the steering wheel and shifting the gear and the accelerator, you would not notice the people who are in front of you, who are, in some sense, your audience. But part of driving a car carefully is to navigate the streets and all of that's happening around you. So when you've practiced all the normal movements together, which is the thing that you're going to say, we have scripted it properly, then you have an awareness of what you're doing, where your car is in a sense, and how your jury is interacting, how your co-team members are saying something, and you have the bandwidth, the brain space to be able to react to that during the presentation. You can hear yourself speak, you can see whether you're going fast or slow, and all of these things come about because the rest of the stuff has become subconscious, unconscious, because you practiced it so many times. So this is the importance of practice, is to be able to push some things away so that they don't become a hurdle anymore. If you're trying to remember something about what you were going to say, then you're not going to be aware of anything else. And it's important to get some things away from that so that you can focus on the softer stuff in the presentation.
Right. Thanks, Prasad. Another question is, what is the ideal number of students who would present, and how many presenters are allowed, and if there are any restrictions to that? So only 4 presenters are allowed to present, and we request you to select those 4. And I think, I'm not sure if that email has gone out or not yet. Prasad, are you aware?
I am not. Shall we ask Amanda?
Yeah, Amanda, are you there?
Yeah, so we haven't sent it out, but for now we have decided that the team lead would be registering all the 4 team members would be presenting. Yeah. And there
Right.
will be additional one backup presenter as well. along with
Yeah.
the 4 presenters. Yeah.
Yeah, so 4 presenters, in case anyone has to, drop out of the 4, we request you to have 1 backup, and it may or may not be your team leader. It's up to you. And yeah, I think that answers the question. And, we will share more details about this so that, and, you can get back to us if you have any further questions about this.
What's the ideal number of students who should present to the jury? So we've said maximum is 4. What's ideal, Yashima?
I would say 4 for 25 minutes, definitely. For grand jury, maybe 2.
What do you think, Alok?
I would say if there is a good reason for 4 to present, then 4 should present. If there are 3 that are going to be able to deliver the key messages and get the point across more emphatically, I mean, to me, it all depends on who is going to be able to deliver the messages that you need to deliver. That will identify what the answer to that question is. Just because a maximum of 4 can present, I am not going to, if I were leading a team, I would not have said that, okay, because 4 can present, here are the 4 that are going to say. I would rather say that these are the people that can land these messages really, really well. And that is why they get to present.
You're on mute, Yashima.
Sorry, I was saying, any thoughts, anything you want to add here?
You got my ideal number, 3.14, 152.896.
All right. Okay, moving forward to the next question. Can we watch our competitors' presentation? So yes, you can watch within your division. You will be able to watch all the presentations. The non-presenters from your team will also be able to watch presentations from other divisions. Yeah, that's right, Prasad. Anything you want to add here?
No, I think that's fine. I think
Okay.
they should be able to watch any of the teams at any point, right?
Yeah, I mean, we'll brief them on how things will happen, but yeah, you more or less you will be able to watch any presentation happening.
We're planning to do a practice session with all the presenting students, not as a practice of the full presentation, but of checking audio, video, etc., understanding that you know how you're supposed to transition between teams so that it becomes smoother for you guys. And again, it takes some of the worries away from you. So we'll send an email about when the practice session will be, 1 or 2 days before the finals event.
Right. Next question, when will we be given a sequence of presentation? Yes, absolutely, you will be given a sequence of presentation. And this will be a randomly set up list. So that will be shared with you all soon. Next question, shall we make our presentations to the grand jury less technical? Alok?
Yeah, to me, the answer is, if the grand jury is somebody from business, or I don't know. I mean, I don't believe the grand jurors have been announced yet, but if it's somebody from like media or business or something like that, you are not going to be able to get any, make a dent on their consciousness by talking about kilowatt hours per square meter per year or any of those things, right? So you are going to have to make it more, less technical, more evocative, more in the manner of, here is why this is the best thing to happen to humankind ever, whatever that might be. And yes, I mean, I think that whether or not it should be about the impact of the solutions, again, I think it all depends on who the jurors are going to be, get, to understand them a little bit, think about all the criteria that have been set forth in the competition guidelines, and, take a cue from the questions that you have already received or the comments that you've already received. Take a cue from what's going on. If you're not the first presenter, then what's going on with the way the presentations are being received, and be willing to kind of modulate to some of these things.
Right. Prasad, do you want to add anything here?
No, I think he covered it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think we're done with the questions. There's one more comment in our chat. So it's four
Yes.
members are, sorry.
I think there was one question that was, should we talk about the impact of our solutions? Did we
Right.
take that one?
Yeah, Alok covered it briefly, but you can, if you want to add, you can add more.
So, I mean,
So the question was, should we talk more about the impact of our solutions?
I would say that if you don't talk about the impact of a solution, then you're only talking about the solution. And the impact actually gives meaning about what your solution is, and that's what helps the jury connect, or any audience connect with what you're doing. So it is the most important thing.
Right. Okay, we have another question. Will we receive feedback on a report before the finals?
That's the attempt.
So you will receive a few comments and maybe a few outstanding questions from the jurors before the final presentation, but that will happen after you have submitted your presentation to us. So all the changes that you will be able to make will be in the narrative, your script, etc., not in the presentation itself. And we have a few questions in our chat window as well, and I'll take them one by one. First one is, if 4 members are presenting and due to some avoidable network issue, the transitions don't go smoothly, any tips on not stumbling?
That's a great question. It's good to see you guys think about this ahead of time, because we all know that network issues do come up, and we all have seen, especially in the last year or so, that even for some of the most important presentations or events that we are part of, we might find ourselves in a situation where we come up with network issues. So a couple of things, right? Definitely backup presenter, but also a backup network connection. So if you have 2 mobile phones, put both of them on mobile hotspot. But the thing is that even if 4 members are presenting and you've identified those 4 members, make sure that you've got one backup for each of your topics, right? So that if your network connection goes on the blink, then someone else from your team should be able to talk to that quickly and step in. But as I understand it, as it relates to the competition, there will only be 4 members maximum, right? So there won't be a 5th member. So there's no substitute player that can be put in. So if a wicketkeeper is injured, then one of the fielders will have to do the wicket keeping. That's what we are saying.
Right. Yeah. And another question is, where does a backup presenter come in? So right before, until before the presentation, if there is some reason because of which one of the 4 presenter has to drop out, that's when the 5th presenter would come in. If there's no problem that happens, then the 4 presenters that have been proposed will be the ones who would be presenting. We will not allow 5 presenters to be on the panel, as Alok already mentioned. So that's one question. Last question is, will the movie be played before or after the presentation, or is it an independent submittal? So the movie will be is an independent submittal. It will not be played before or after the presentation. And I would like Prasad to talk more about this.
The movie is being judged for your ability to create a narrative and a story about your project in a different way. So the movie is not adding to your finalist. The jury, the division jury judging whether you are going to be the winner or not. The movies are actually going to be judged on their own merit and will be given a best movie award. So we are trying to make you see that there are different ways to tell the story of your work. One is to the division jury, which is highly technical. They know about implementation, they know about scaling up, they know about net zero, and they are going to see whether your project is quote unquote worth the trouble of their time. seriously, I mean, these are people who have done this kind of work, and they are going to really put your project through a filter of a technical lens and an implementation lens while listening to your narrative. The second is the grand jury, which is, a set of jury members who come from a real estate, but not necessarily a technical background, and media, who are going to say, this is the story these students have created. Is this a project that somebody would invest in? Would I want to invest in something like this? And that's what the second jury is. And the third jury is the movie award, which is saying, how do these students tell their story to the general public about what they've done and what their team is?
Right. Thanks, Prasad. And meanwhile, we have some more questions. So I'll take them one by one. So first is, will all team members be allowed to answer and participate in the Q&A, or will it just be the 4 presenters? As of now, I believe it will only be the 4 presenters who would be allowed to answer the Q&A. But we will confirm that in the coming days. So again, I mean, this is a request to all of you that stay tuned and keep in touch and keep checking your inboxes, because there's a lot of information that we will be sharing in the coming days. So a lot of your questions would be answered then. Sad, you want to add anything?
Sorry, I just remembered something else about the movie that I want to add.
Sure.
So at the end of the first day, all the movies will be available for everybody to see once the divisional juries have been done. And you as team members, in a sense, get to stand by your movie and your report, and others can virtually can come by and see your work. So it is like a poster presentation, except it will be done with your movie and your report. And so you can literally have chat conversations with whoever comes by to look at your work. So remember that there is an exhibit session at the end of the first day where any jury from any panel may come and look at your work. The audience may come and look at your work. Other students may come and look at your work.
Right. Thanks, Prasad. Next question, should the verbal presentation be strictly in English?
I'm going to move this one to Alok. He's one of the jury members.
I mean, I think that it's a chance that you can take. You can ask the jury members if they're comfortable with a language other than English. And if they are, because, for better or for worse, what happens is that in India, the most common language spoken of business communications and presentations is English. So if you have a jury member from the South, they may not be speaking Hindi. If you have somebody from the North, they may not be conversant with, I don't know, Marathi or Gujarati. So it's, to me, it depends on whether your jury members are conversant in the language that you would like to speak in.
Right. Thanks, Alok. Another question, what will be the weightage of D4 and the presentation in deciding the winner? Prasad?
Okay, so the jurying process goes like this. You have submitted your reports. The jury will go through the reports with a fine-tooth comb and mark your reports, and they'll intimately know your project before you get to the presentation. Then you present to them, and they get to see what else you have covered, how you can tell your story better, what are some of the gaps that you might fill, and they will rescore you if they feel the need after looking at your presentation. So you may have done really well on, say, 8 of the 10 contests and 2 are not so good. But after the presentation, the jury may say, yeah, these guys are talking through their hats. They really don't know what they're talking about. So I'm going to score them down on all 10. Or they might say, no, they convinced me. They really know what they're doing. So I'm going to bump up their scores. So all that happens during the presentation.
Right. Thank you, Prasad. Okay, one last question for today. Can all group members do answers when question answer session is going on during jury? I would say no. We will only allow 4 members who will be your presenters to answer the questions, but we can get back to you on this. Yeah, right, Prasad?
Yeah, I think we will not be able to have visual or audio connections with any of the other team members. They may be able to add answers into the chat window. I think that will be difficult for the jury to be able to keep track of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, only 4 people will be able to do the Q&A as well. Right. One more question we have. What if we are better at written presentation and not verbal? What if we lose points?
Get better at verbal presentations. That is what it takes to win the competition.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what today's session was. I mean, that you get better at presentations as well. So
I can guarantee you that with practice, anybody can become a really good presenter. You may not become, Martin Luther King or Shah Rukh Khan or Alok Deshmukh, but you will become a really good presenter and not have to ask this question if you practice enough.
okay, we have one more question, and this is the last question now I'm taking. Will the questions in the Q&A be pointed to a person from one of the 4, or will any of the 4 can answer? Yeah, any of the 4 can answer. It's totally up to you. You can divide. Actually, a good practice is that you divide that, okay, energy, MEP, HVAC questions this person will take, architecture, innovation questions this person will take. And as the question comes, you would know that, okay, this question is for me, and then you take up that question. That's a good practice. But yeah, anyone can answer the question of the 4 people.
You can also have one person who is a moderator. For example, the way Yashima is now taking up the questions and asking if I want to add something, if Alok wants to say something. So you can have one person who says, okay, person A, why don't you take this question? And once you feel that that person has answered enough, you can say, okay, maybe, person C, do you want to add something to that? Because that one person who's a moderator may have a better sense of who knows what. So that's another way to handle the Q&A session.
Right. All right. So thank you for the lovely Q&A session, Prasad and Alok. And I would also like to thank you, Alok, for a great session today. And I hope our participants will make the best use of the knowledge and experience that you've shared today. And we look forward to some compelling stories at the Solar Decathlon India Design Challenge Finals. Also, this was the last of the webinar series of Solar Decathlon India 2020-21. We had 25 webinars, out of which 10 were technical sessions and 15 were done to help you with software and soft skills. And I would like to give a round of applause to our experts who have shared their experience and came forward as mentors. So a small round of applause for them. And you, our audience, attended and engaged actively with these experts. So a big thank you to all of you as well. Now, these webinar recordings are available on our YouTube channel. So please feel free to come back anytime and take another look, and also share them with your peers. And if you're a finalist, please keep an eye on your emails, because we will be sending you a lot of information in the next few days. And do not hesitate to reach out to us in case you have any queries. Our email ID is uday@solardecathlon.india.in. And with that, I would wish you all the very best. And we look forward to seeing you at the Solar Decathlon India Design Challenge Finals. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. And good luck, everyone.
Best of luck.